Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there, welcome to the program. Is it spring? Is this spring? It's Tuesday, I know that much. Susan, are you there?
I'm here.
What's the first day of spring?
It started at 4 o'clock, probably 3 o'clock your time, yesterday. PM.
Yesterday?
Yeah.
Cool.
Today is the first
spring.
full day of spring.
How come it doesn't say that in my little calendar?
Because it didn't want to fool with the stuff where it actually occurred at, I think it was like 4 o'clock.
Oh, no, I see it. It's in very, very small print. And it's under Benito Juarez's birthday observed in Mexico. Who's Benito Juarez? He's somebody big in Mexican history.
Right.
Never heard of him. But I'm an American. We don't know nothing.
We're not allowed to know our own history. How the hell should we know anybody else's?
That's a good one. That's a good one. Anyway, so it's March 21st. 2023, and I'm sorry, Susan. Yesterday I did a show that was so depressing. It was like, and I said nothing, that wasn't true, and it was mostly about poverty in America. But looking today, for something slightly more uplifting to speak about, I came up with nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing!
What I came up with, and it was just as I was perusing, papers and news aggregators, and there was a theme today. And the theme was misogyny and violence on women.
Women. Well, I saw it too.
I mean, headline after headline. Yeah, and sexist references. I mean, it was amazing. From a PR agency having to apologize because they took the Regina, which is capital of something in Canada, one of the provinces, and they made a absolutely, sexually.
They called it vagina?
They said, "Come to the city that rhymes with fun." Come to the city. It was all plays on vagina, and needless to say, the people of the city were less than amused. I mean, it's just like, is everything, and then that was followed up with workplaces are getting far more safe. Which is partly because they were empty during the pandemic. But there's only one category which appears to have gone down, which is
meaning less safe, less safe, even though
the number of occurrences are the same. It is the incidence of violence against women, intentional violence against women, meaning punching, strangling, shooting, you name it, kicking, anything that resulted in an injury where they couldn't come to work for at least a day. Man, that's way up. Everything else is down, but violence against women, that's way up.
Here's one of the things. Here's one of the reasons why, though. Look at the jobs where the most dangerous jobs for being injured, the jobs where the number of injuries that are caused by violent attacks. Now, I never had, most people go to work, they're not expecting to be attacked. But that's not true if these are the jobs: teaching assistant, personal care aide. Right there, we got.
Yeah, it looks like we. Yeah, I just want to say, it looks like we planned. It looks like we plan our show. We do not plan our show. We just our eyes find the same.
Well, but we're not like looking around. I'm looking in my usual sources.
Me too.
Teaching assistants. This was from a Was it a Washington Post or a New York Times piece?
I think it was Washington Post.
They did a deep dive. So people most likely to be injured on the job, as Susan said, punched, strangled, who knows what, are teaching assistants, personal care aides, psychiatric aides and techs, elementary school teachers, and registered nurses. Now, all just overwhelmingly female occupations. And it doesn't mean that they're being attacked because they're women. They are in a situation
necessarily
with the schools, especially. The schools have become crazy places for a lot of reasons, but they're obviously a psychiatric aid, and a deeper dive into that tells you that while higher ups that work in psychiatric hospitals are given defense training and learning how to deal with potentially dangerous patients, the aides are not. And
they are the people that spend all of their time with the patients.
Right. And they don't, and by the way, all of the jobs that goes back to what I was talking about, poverty in America, we impoverish people. And yet they have jobs. They have jobs like psychiatric aid or personal caregiver that keep them in poverty because we don't pay them anything. And on top of it, they're more likely to be injured on the job than a police officer. Okay? So the most dangerous jobs are the least remunerative, and they go to women and women of color.
Because they are valued the least. At the best, you can say that the violence might be unintentional, but the misogyny is extraordinarily real. Well, or as people seem to like to say these days, existential.
Well, as they like, here's another adjective, I think, systemic.
Oh no, we can't say systemic. That's getting close to critical.
Okay. So when we, it's interesting that when you look at the jobs that you're more likely to get killed in, those are men's jobs where you're killed. Women just get grievously injured in theirs.
Well, women do those jobs too. Women are on the police forces, and they are.
No, the police, Susan. The police aren't in the top 10.
Okay, good.
Which I think, again, we're always hearing every time a police officer gets hurt. You don't hear about the psychiatric aid worker who goes to work and gets grievously injured on the job. That's not part of our narrative. But a cop, that's part of the narrative. This hero, this. It's not even in the top 10.
And by the way, if they had included the military as a workplace, those numbers would have been astronomical.
No, as a workplace?
Yeah. Well, the military is a workplace.
Well, but not at war.
Not at war. I'm just talking about people in the military as a career, which has, again, a systemic problem with especially sexual violence against women.
Right. But by far the most dangerous, where you're likely to be killed, occupations are fishing. Fishing and hunting.
Sure.
That's way out ahead of anybody else. Logging. Roofers. Yeah, that makes sense. Aircraft pilots is number 4. And garbage people, refuse collectors, steel workers, truck drivers, underground mining machine operators, and 10th is farmers. nowhere are public safety heroes. And I'm not disparaging them, but again, these narratives that exist. You know, if some kid says, I want to be a police officer, and, you know, their friends went, no, are you kidding? I mean, it's dangerous. They wouldn't say that if somebody said, I'm going to become a steel worker or a truck driver, or I'm going to go cut down trees. Nope. I don't know. So we're always operating under, and in fact, the jobs with the largest decrease in attacks in the last few years are police officers. And stop and think about that, police officers. And yet, our sense of police officers in danger just increases, doesn't it? And we keep thinking, oh my God, these are such dangerous jobs. In fact, the largest decrease in attacks on the job were enjoyed by police officers. I don't know. That's, facts. Facts are troublesome things because they interfere with what we want to believe or what just seems obvious.
Well, and also right? Just the way we as Americans operate. And we noticed this in the early days of the pandemic when it occurred to us that all of the essential workers were the lowest paid workers in the country.
That's right.
And now 3 years later, we seem to have forgotten that again.
That's right. And have we increased their pay? Have we realized that, oh my God, the people we cannot live without are not hedge fund managers. They're not white collar workers. They're the lowest of the low in our estimation of societal value.
Right. And so now you got the Los Angeles Unified School District striking today.
Right. Well, they shut it down. They've closed the schools.
Yeah.
Because stop and think about it. To be a teacher is dangerous now. It is. I don't know. And there's no way. You can't open your mouth, and you have to have open
shooter drills. I mean, this is just ridiculous. You have to watch every word you say, lest some crazed parent decides that you should lose your job, and then these damn school boards, for some reason, go along with it.
Speaking of that, I just came across this right before the show started, and this is a member. Come on! They won't let me show it. Okay, it's a Republican member of the state house here in Pennsylvania, and she's a member of a group called, let me get this right because I had it someplace else, Moms for Liberty. And
that's the clue. What is she trying? Who's she trying to put in jail?
Teachers. So she actually, and I can't access this thing for some reason. She has doubled down on her call for teachers literally to be watched, and she says the easiest way to watch them is for parents, and she's talking about moms, is for mothers to get into the schools, be there, substitute teach. And she goes on to suggest that teachers are treating Black students better than white kids. And she wants she wants spies in the schools. And those are Moms for Liberty. It's actually a woman who's part of this group, Moms for Liberty, in Florida, who, if you look at all the books that have been pulled there, it has to start with somebody lodging a complaint. It's one woman. Mm-hmm. And she's a Mom for Liberty. She's the head of one of the county chapters. And she has gotten dozens upon dozens and dozens of books banned in her county.
Well, what's doubly disgusting about this is there's absolutely nothing subversive about mothers and, by the way, fathers volunteering in the public schools. I did that the whole time my kids were there. That's how I ended up being on the school board. And you bet I was in the classrooms, but it never occurred to me that I was spying. I was trying to be helpful.
Yeah.
And I was seeing what the teachers actually had to deal with. And let me tell you what the problem in the schools was that a casual observer could always see. If there was a problem kid and you met the parent, oh, it's a problem parent.
Almost always.
Almost always. And if it's the kid, you're usually working with the parent who's as concerned as you.
Yeah.
So,
well, things have changed.
But how awful to take away, to make the parent who is coming into the school to be helpful, to make them suspicious and unwanted. What a terrible thing to do.
I'm thinking that the time I did volunteer, I volunteered in the school library, elementary school library that my son attended, a Pittsburgh public school. And I so enjoyed it because it's the kind of work I like. I like being around books, and I like doing seemingly, sort of mundane tasks like putting books back where they belong.
You like sorting and organizing, yes.
I do. I was in heaven doing that job. I was in heaven. And I just sort of realized, wow, if you had told me that I was volunteering in a place that would become a major flashpoint, I mean, a elementary school library, a major flashpoint in the culture wars, in political wars, in the struggle we are in now as a country because of the Republicans going off the rails. I mean, I would have been, what? What? We're talking about what? These books being dangerous? Unbelievable. It's just unbelievable to me. So,
yeah, unbelievable. But if people like you and I stop doing this or allow these kind of people to push us out, and so we don't want to run for school board because it's so unpleasant, that's the exact wrong reaction. Boy, do we need to get our people back in there.
That's what they want.
They're trying to scare regular people away because, again, I'll tell you, I'm going to repeat what my superintendent of schools used to say, and that's that you don't drain the whole pond because there's all those toads out there and frogs making noise all night. It's one frog. You just can't tell. and
that friggin' frog.
That's right, and if you even look at the group another interesting article was that I saw, I think probably yesterday, about people leaving religious organizations in droves, and why white people are so freaked by everybody and what they think they're losing, and you add this all up. And it just comes out to be about 11% of the population that is yanking the rest of us around by a chain, and we need to shut them up. We need to just stand up and say, go back where you came from. Every single one of us. We need to stand up to them.
I think that started to happen the last time Americans went to the polls.
Well, yeah, but we got to keep doing it.
That's where it has to happen. That is where it has to happen.
Yeah, that outraged them.
I read the same article. I read the same article you did, and it's trying to understand. The fact is there are white Christians who are just scared shitless about losing the power they've always enjoyed. Never mind that they still have unbelievable representation absolutely everywhere. They're still the largest group.
It's no
in the
longer
country.
being automatically handed to them.
No. And this is because of liberal policies like civil rights and allowing black people to actually compete for jobs.
And George Soros.
Let him and interesting you should say that, because that's another thing. I saw DeSantis finally was flushed out to say something about the fact that Donald Trump might get indicted any minute. And he said, he was asked, hey, what if it comes down to you as the governor of Florida having to extradite him to New York? And which would be fun.
Yeah, that would be great fun.
And he said, I don't know about that, but I do know this. And this is the first words he really talks about this. I do know this. The Manhattan District Attorney is a Soros-funded prosecutor. Okay. Now, okay,
when in doubt, it's the Jews' fault. Just remember.
Right. That's right. When in doubt, it's woke. When in doubt, say woke or Soros-funded. And that's all you need. Those are, whistles, little dog whistles for Jewish money. Yeah. By the way, someone dug into, is the DA in New York Bragg, is he Soros-funded? No, he's not. Soros gave money to a group that doles it out to various, progressive candidates in New York.
But he doesn't make the decisions.
No, he didn't make the decision, but I mean, it doesn't matter.
Right. And
then he goes into it again. And you see this. Every time you see Soros-funded, that's all these folks whose minds have been poisoned by Fox News and the repetition of the right-wing outrage machine. That's all they need to hear. They don't even know. If you ask one of them, what does woke mean? They don't know. Ask them what Soros-funded is. You think many of them even have a clue? But they know it's really sinister. And it somehow isn't good for them. Now, I have to tell you, I don't want to go there.
Well, I'm having a laugh riot so far.
You are?
No.
Man. Speaking of Fox News.
Did you see that other lawsuit?
Yeah. But you know what? Yeah. Yes. So one of the producers at Fox is suing Fox now for
Maria Bartolino's only employee, or whatever it is.
Bartolomo's producer. Her name is Abby Grossberg, and she is vile. Let me just say this.
Yeah. The premise of the suit is vile. I lied and they made me.
She said that she was told to lie. No, but other things she brings up is just, this is somebody, what a vile woman. I mean, the New York Times did print a bunch of texts that went back and forth among Fox employees. And here's one where Abby Grossberg, who's now an aggrieved litigant against Fox, says this to Maria, who wanted to know if they should have talked. She had just interviewed Trump, and she said to her producer, maybe we should have talked about a peaceful transition. This is after he's maybe I should have asked. And Abby Grossberg, the aggrieved litigant, says to Maria, our audience doesn't want to hear about a peaceful transition.
Well, she's right.
Well, they knew it. And so they were shutting down Here she was doing, it's a wonder that she ends up turning on them. She's 100% on board. As one of them. And there's also texts from this other woman who quit. This is somebody, a Fox employee who did the right thing. Her name is Kristen Fisher. She covered the White House for Fox News.
Yeah.
And she actually did a report in which she told the truth about all of this, about Trump losing. And when she was done with her report, she got a call from her boss at Fox, and he was enraged. Now, she ends up testifying in the Dominion case, and the transcript, she's asked, what did he say to you? And she says, he expressed his great unhappiness with my live shot. He emphasized that higher ups at Fox News were also unhappy with it. And he told me that I needed to do a better job of respecting, this is a quote, respecting our audience. And the question the lawyer asked her in the Dominion deposition, well, what was, did you understand what that meant?
Yes, lie to them.
Respecting. And she said, I believe that I was respecting our audience by telling them the truth.
Right.
Well, needless to say, she got totally, they didn't fire her. They just kept her off the air. She was made into a pariah. And then she quit. She said, I couldn't defend my employer to my daughter while trying to teach her to do what is right. I'm leaving. And I'm leaving 6 weeks paid leave on the table and taking a pay cut. That's a good woman.
Yep. Except she was there an awful long time.
Well, whatever. Kristen Fisher, she was not whatever. And this Abby Grossberg, don't fall for her being, now that she's getting a lot of ink by taking on Fox.
She is one of those women that sues, that discredits the women that really should be suing. Not to say that an awful woman can't have endured the sexual harassment and hostile work environment that she clearly did. So you have to separate the fact that she is an undeserving victim with the fact that she is, in fact, a victim.
Listen, anyone working in that place, whatever.
Well, yeah, I would say that they silently consented. That was just part of the work environment that they knew when they accepted the deal.
Mm-hmm.
That way, if I were on the defense side, I would say, you mean you didn't know? You mean that wasn't what you saw on the air didn't alert you to what you would see inside? I mean, that's if I were defending Fox, that's what I would say in that suit against her. That she had gone there willingly, consensually, knowing everything.
The bigger news is, of course, and I refuse to read the stories because it terrifies me too much, and I can't.
Was he and Putin? Yeah.
No. Yes, there's another. Okay. Yeah, Z and Putin, two of the scariest guys on the world stage right now. And
my dear friend. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're getting together. So we now know the makeup of the next Cold War, and let's hope it at least stays cold. It's China and Russia. Man, that's a powerful, mostly because of China. China and Russia. Russia will supply the cannon fodder. Russia will say, they're actually sending unarmed soldiers to just be mowed down to wear out. They send unarmed. They get them out of prison. They sign them up and they
execute them.
Get mowed down. And the thing is after, the Ukrainians don't have the population to do that, nor are they totally morally bankrupt like Russia? What a vile, vile, vile country. So that's unsettling, yes. And but what was I thinking about the other one? Oh no, Susan, climate.
Oh, climate.
The UN, this group of scientists have come out again and said, hello.
TikTok.
Hello. We are so fucked unless the world acts together right now, literally stops coal, stops this fossil fuel shit. We're gone. We're done. We are done. And we know nothing will happen, or what will happen will not be enough. And so that is so terrifying.
Well, didn't you see on the bright side the seniors in wheelchairs blocking the bank doors, in order to get them to divest from? I
appreciated that. I appreciated that. Well, yeah. But
this is a protest against investing in the sources of that affect climate.
That's right, and that had to do with Biden's first veto, where he knocked an attempt also to keep alive this effort to reward those who are helping in this fight and to punish those who are not. And a lot of that has to do through investment, obviously. Money, money, money. Where's the money going? And it needs to start going to the right places. That's why the banks are being called woke if they sign on to this kind of greener investment.
Right, because survival is woke.
Yeah.
Well, no, because caring about anybody about yourself today, that's woke.
I guess so. Empathy is woke. Concern for others, woke. Yeah. So I did notice today what made me think about, there was just a little headline, not that any of us will do anything. Over 43,000 people, mostly children, are dead. 43,000 people, mostly children, are dead in one country because of drought. That is a direct result. Somalia, by the way. Yeah. But, this stuff just doesn't penetrate. It doesn't, they're sort of like psychiatric aids in America.
I don't know anybody in Somalia.
No, I don't either. So there's all of that.
Yeah. I almost woke.
Okay. I want to ask you, Susan.
Yes, me.
So pisses me
Lynn.
off. Yes. Another loathsome character, Alex Jones.
Oh,
he's the InfoWars guy.
He was divesting his whole fortune lest he have to pay the Stony Hook people.
Yes. So he's the guy who tortured and set the lunatics on the grieving parents of the children who were murdered.
He's the guy that decided it was a
Why
hoax.
am I blanking on Sandy Hook? Sandy Hook.
Yeah.
By the way, I saw a little item again as I was reading the paper today, and it was so small, but it was a school shooting that you didn't hear about, didn't get reported. I don't know, is there just 2 dead somewhere in Texas? And doesn't even get reported.
For heaven's sakes.
No, just happened to see it out of the corner of my eye. Didn't pull it because I thought, yeah, so.
Well, the press in Texas might have been ordered to suppress it. You never know.
Oh my God. Okay, so here's what I want to know. But I know. I mean, I know the answer. I was saying yesterday in terms of how the persistence of poverty in this rich country is a direct result of choices that are made, of policies that are agreed upon, and where we all just say, okay, that's fine, ain't hurting me none. And so we allow this huge underclass to service us. And one of the ways that happens is through tax laws, right? Tax laws serve the rich. I can tell you this. Tax laws serve the rich. And bankruptcy obviously serves the rich too, right?
Yeah,
because
but some of these things that are not automatic, and the court can just say sorry. No,
I don't know. Obviously the court's not doing anything. Here's what happened. He went to trial. The jury convicted him. They said he owes, it's ludicrous, over $1 billion to these people who he tortured and taunted.
And whom he's continuing to make money off of.
Yeah. And he's continuing to make money. Now, he has a net worth that people figure is about $250 million. But he declared bankruptcy, personal bankruptcy. He declared business bankruptcy. And he's been busily transferring all his millions.
Well, I think you had that in the wrong order. He transferred all of his millions, and then he declared bankruptcy.
Yeah, okay. Well,
so he...
No. Listen to this. No. He declared bankruptcy last year. And in the past year, he has transferred.
Okay.
It was
he could say that even with all of my billions, I don't have $1 billion, so I am by definition bankrupt. And then, and before they could partition his assets, he gave them all away. But I don't care. A court can demand you get that back. Well, it's like when a company pays itself bonuses and then goes bankrupt. The bank claws back those bonuses.
Okay, here's what he's given millions,
or the court,
to family, to friends. He's started up a new company, but put his former personal trainer in charge of it. All of this, according to potentially out of reach of his creditors. He has bought himself a private jet. He has bought himself rented a villa.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
He has spent heavily on luxuries. And it says here, Suze, the families now face a stark reality. It is not clear whether they will ever collect a significant portion of the assets.
That's correct. But the word is potential. And I don't see, if what he is doing in full view of everybody is legal, then that means that bankruptcy is only a dodge from criminal and civil liability for rich people. And that's not the way the bankruptcy court specifically does not operate that way. So any judge that does not claw back that money faces scrutiny.
It says that
what it's going to take is years and years of delay.
Well, there's already been years and years of delay. Their children were killed more than 10 years ago.
Yeah, but the case was a year ago.
So InfoWars has revenues of about $70 million a year.
Yeah.
And yet he was able to file for bankruptcy under the Small Business Reorganization Act, known as Subchapter 5.
It's just all now.
This law first took effect in 2020. Now, I wonder, there's the Trumpians. They were doing what they do. And he took, and unlike a traditional Chapter 11 bankruptcy, Chapter 5, Subchapter 5, gives creditors virtually no say in a restructuring plan, nor can they file a competing plan. And he actually has said publicly, we're doing really well in Chapter 5. Whatever judgments they have can't shut us down. Now, maybe whatever profits there is in the future, these jerks will get, but who cares? We're still on the air.
Well, if this isn't in the end blowing up in his face, then the judicial system in the United States is totally gone. Because I don't care what chapter you're operating under, that cannot be the intent of the legislation.
Listen, okay. I just want to say that the thing that set me off yesterday was his book called, everywhere I turn now, I'm seeing there's a big, long piece in the New Yorker on it that I haven't read yet. This book by sociologist Matthew Desmond on why poverty is so persistent in this country, and he doesn't let any of us off the hook. Anyway, Barbara has said that if you're a fresh air aficionado, NPR, Terry Gross's show, he is on today on her show. So his book is called Poverty, by America. Anyway, so if you want to hear, something, the reason that I got so set off the other day, I'll make a point of listening. He's really getting attention. So what, huh? Unless we take it to heart and try to do something.
Unless you do the right thing, like not want equal pay and helping people all along, but when it comes to paying your cleaning lady, nah. When it comes to paying, the handyman, nah. Or your caregiver, nah. Things cost money. Okay.
I just wanted to, there was a piece in the Times today about the fallout. During the pandemic, a lot of people who worked at the CDC were absolutely traumatized by their inability to get the word out to Americans about the threat of COVID. They were prevented by the Trump White House. And there's an article about these people they feel like because of that, literally, hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives. And the article talks about how
and continue to lose their lives.
In February of 2020, the head of the CDC, or I don't think she was a head, she was senior, texted or tried to warn Americans that they needed to prepare for a pandemic. And she got ripped apart by the president, Trump, and told to shut up. 2 days later, the agency was told that any messaging would have to go through the White House. And so they muzzled them. They even, this is before there was so much that wasn't known. Wasn't sure how it was being transmitted. They weren't sure about anything. But the people at the CDC were all telling their families, their friends, they couldn't tell us, cancel, don't go, don't travel, cancel that wedding, cancel that vacation, just stay home and wear masks, maybe even goggles. I mean, they were literally being told, don't go out. And some took to social media to try to warn Americans. And man, they got shut down fast, threatened with losing their jobs. So it wasn't until April 3rd that the White House allowed the CDC to tell Americans they should wear masks. And one of the people who worked there at the time, who was posting on social media and then backed off after he was threatened with being fired, he's quoted as saying, I wish I had taken my cell phone and just live streamed myself yelling at the top of my lungs. More people would be alive if I had done that. So you're seeing these people dealing with such guilt about it. They were not allowed to put out reports on the risks to children, on the risks of going to church, all of that. And one of them wrote to another, it's like we're in hell or the Twilight Zone. Yeah, you are, you were, we all are, because Trump and the Republicans were running the show.
And they're trying to run it again. I mean, Kevin McCarthy is just so amazing. You're just he gives a whole new meaning to chutzpah.
Well, he has if you want to see what having absolutely no sense of ethics or morals looks like, that's the guy. No soul, no sense of right or wrong, just narcissistic personal gain. It's the only thing driving him.
Yeah, I mean, if I were married or a child of that guy, I'd be terrified that if it came down to sacrificing us for his career, there would be no question.
Yeah. Yep. Here's a quote apropos of nothing. I'm going to share it with you. It's from Shirley Temple. Remember her?
Yeah, she the ambassador.
Well, but I'm going back. Remember Shirley Temple? She was
I know. When the child tap dancing, curly-haired actor.
Yeah, just adorable little thing. And then she became, and she lived a really...
a rich, full life.
Anyway, she's quoted as saying this, I love it. I stopped believing in Santa Claus at the age of 6 when my mother took me to see him in a store and he asked for my autograph.
Well, that's the thing about Shirley Temple Black. The reason that she was such an incredible child star is because she was brilliant, and she grew up to be a brilliant, fully realized human being. It was very nice to see. It didn't necessarily have to end up that way.
No. Good woman. Okay. See, we laughed. We managed to laugh.
We got to laugh.
So I was watching a bad movie the other night, and it was called 20th Century Woman. And I watched because I like the star, Annette Bening.
Mm-hmm.
but I was not enjoying the movie. It was pretty awful, I thought. And at one point in the movie, this family's sitting around their living room, and the president is addressing them on television in a televised, and it's Jimmy Carter. So, and they play in the movie a pretty significant clip of Jimmy Carter's speech. And it's very moving, and it's very prescient. And then they go back to the characters, and the Annette Bening character says, oh no, one of the other characters said something like, well, he's done. He's finished. That was his reaction to the speech was, this guy is going to be creamed when he runs for re-election. And she looked startled because she said, I thought that was a wonderful speech. I actually went and looked up the speech because it was a famous speech and he did help get him creamed. Mm-hmm. It was the speech he felt he had to give to tell Americans that they needed, he was preaching in it. Mm-hmm. He was not being the president. He was being a preacher and trying to give Americans a sense of what they should do. And he's telling them things that no one wanted to hear. He actually said, he was saying, this is called the crisis of confidence speech. So I Googled it, and oh yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful speech, but he challenges Americans to be better. And you know how that's going to work out.
Yeah. What? Better? You want to? How much are you going to pay me?
Yeah. Here, I looked it up, and he says, I want to talk to you about a fundamental threat to our democracy. Mm-hmm. I don't mean our political and civil liberties. They will endure. I do not refer to the outward strength of America, a nation that is at peace tonight and has unmatched economic power and military might. The threat is nearly invisible. It's a crisis of confidence. It's a crisis that strikes at the heart and soul and spirit of our national will. We can see this in the growing doubt about the meaning of our own lives and in the loss of a unity of purpose for the nation. He goes on to describe that exactly where we were and where we were heading. And he says, this is a consequential time. This is a turning point in our history. There are two paths. One is a path I'm warning you, he's warned us about tonight. And that path leads to fragmentation and self-interest. And I can stop right there.
Right there, because that's where we are.
That's the path we took. And
what did I say woke meant?
Yeah. And he said that night, down that road, and listen how right on he is about where we are with these Americans who don't understand what America's about. Down that path of self-interest is a mistaken idea of freedom. So when you look at the right wing in this country today, what's their sense of freedom? You can't tell me to wear a mask. You can't, right?
Right.
You can't tell me
But I get to tell you what to read, when to read. Yep.
Okay. And he says that idea of freedom is mistaken. The right to grasp for ourselves some advantage over others. That path would be one of constant conflict, ending in chaos. It is a certain route to failure. And then he goes on to say, we must do the other path, the path of common purpose and the restoration of American values. And that path leads to true freedom. We can take the first steps down that path as we begin to solve our energy problems. And then he goes in to, if we had listened to this man, we did not. We did not. And Susan, did you see that this guy who's about to die, I mean, Jimmy Carter's about to die, but this other guy who's about to die has said he couldn't remain silent anymore. And he came out and flat out said that he and this other guy, who's well known, actually was John Connolly, the guy, the former governor of Texas.
Texas, right. In the car with JFK, yeah.
They went on a little tour, and in it, they stopped in a whole bunch of countries and told every world leader, get this message to the Ayatollah, to the Iranians, who were holding American hostages, right? Tell them, do not let those hostages out until Ronald Reagan is in the White House.
Mm-hmm. They held them longer.
They held them longer and interfered. And because if the hostages had been released, it could be Carter might have, I doubt it, but might have. But everyone knew because they were released. It worked. And I have to tell you this. Think of how Republicans fight dirty. That was despicable. And American lives at stake. And they went around behind the back of America's interests and kept those hostages in their situation until Reagan came in and would get credit for their being freed. How is that? And then think of Nixon. Do you remember this? Nixon when he's running for re-election. He's got crap happening, that would have knocked him out. He had the Vietnam War going. Do you remember he actually went out of his way? He sabotaged the Vietnam peace talks. It's well known. He and Kissinger did. Because he needed the war.
He needed the war.
That was that was then 68. So that's before he was elected the first time. In 68, he sabotaged the peace talks to win. Then Reagan does this behind the scenes thing to Iran. And by the way, they came back and reported immediately to, I forget who, was it William Casey? It was William Casey, who was one of Reagan's right-hand man and was going to be the head of the CIA when Reagan got elected. They came back and reported back to him that they'd done the job.
Right.
And then look at how Trump aided and abetted Putin's covert attacks on
think what if it would have happened to Ukraine?
Yeah. So, excuse me, Nixon, Reagan, Trump, these are all Republicans who were quite willing to harm our country and our people and our national interests to get elected.
Right. And they're all from one party, folks.
All from one party. I just want to tell you, when Jimmy Carter does die, we will be reminded of what an amazing man he was.
I think most people already have realized that.
Yeah, but why didn't they realize it when it would have helped?
Well, because that's not how we've been taught to see strength or power. You know, we don't actually think that somebody that lives according to Christian, his view of Christianity, would be strong because of that, yet preach the way he does. And that's how screwed up we are. We don't know what strength is. We don't know what the proper use of power is, or a great many of us. And a great many of us are capable of being turned when we get in power. Because power is, it's a drug.
Power is, and power we think is macho.
Right. And dearest Lynn, I have to call an end to this. You can go on, but I have to go.
No, it's our time. The show is done.
Yeah.
So listen, have a wonderful time and give everyone my love. And
I will.
FaceTime me sometime.
I will. We will FaceTime you. I promise.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Susan, just so you understand, is hosting. She's back in Chicago and she's hosting we have a niece, my brother's daughter, who lives in London, and her husband and she and their two little unbelievably adorable children are coming, and then they'll be in Michigan, and I can't see them because I'm crippled. I just can't travel. I'm not doing great. So I just left out. But how wonderful is something like FaceTime? We never had that ability. So even if you are isolated, you can still be with people and see people. And it's pretty wonderful, ain't it? Okay, I think that's it for me. I'm done. And God help us for tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe we'll have something if Trump does get indicted today, but I don't think he will. Maybe he will. Who cares? I care. Okay. Goodbye. Good one.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.